Hi Lumineers, welcome back to the Lighter Side Show. I'm your host, Jamie Butler, the Everyday Medium. And today we have on set Alyce Wellons.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
And we're going to be talking about the energy of presence. And this is going to go in different directions. A little mindfulness, a little being in the now, a little bit about environment. But before we dive into that, some housekeeping notes. Lumineers, you guys are always asking where we are, what classes are coming up, what events, what workshops. You can find that over at jamiebutlermedium.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Our lovely Colleen behind the camera,
Yay, Colleen.
puts that together, and it is organized so nicely. We do have some online classes coming up. In 2019, we're launching a new Reiki series, 1, 2, and Mastership. And we're also launching a new Mediumship series, the Basic, Intermediate, and Advanced. So I'd love to see you guys there. Okay, now we're going to shift our focus and welcome Alyce Wellons.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So you are a psychotherapist,
Yes.
and you've been doing this for 25 years.
Yes.
And from what I've noticed, most therapists don't last that long. Is that weird to say that? Career field?
That's absolutely a good observation.
So I wanted to know a little bit on what kind of work you do, a little bit of background so our Lumineers can get to know you a little bit better, and what your approach is to therapy.
Okay.
And why do you love it so much?
Oh, that's the best question. Okay. So I'm a psychotherapist in private practice. I've been doing it for 25 years. And a lot of therapists might decide that at some point they want to leave the field. They might want more flexibility. It might be getting too intense. Just witnessing a lot of that human journey can be overwhelming. So they might try coaching or just leave the field completely. But those who stay tend to stay throughout their entire career, into their 70s and 80s. Because once you find a way to work with healing in the room, it really opens up and there becomes a lot of meaning in it. So there's that. But what I do is I have the traditional psychotherapy private practice. So it's the 50-minute sessions, and it's psychotherapy. So, we're in the room, you're on the couch, I'm in the chair, just like you see in the New Yorker.
With the little book and the pen?
I don't take notes in the session. But like we were talking earlier, I think one of the things that you find is very, very shortly in, you realize that just talking back and forth begins to have some limitations to it. So there's this sense of how do you create more depth to the experience? How do you create more meaning? How do you create more healing in the room while staying in that bounded 50-minute session? And for me and for most therapists, that becomes about presence. That is when you start to develop your presence as a psychotherapist, your presence as a healer. Not everybody uses that word. And your ability to hold space in the room is what you begin to cultivate and explore. And when your career starts to take that direction, it really opens up. And that's when it really becomes exciting and fun, and meaning just really increases.
Can you describe psychotherapy versus traditional therapy?
That's probably
Classic
just a
therapy.
nomenclature. So psychotherapy for me means the standard 50-minute session. So you come in, you sit on the couch, we talk, you leave, you come back next week. Psychotherapy tends to have boundaries to it. We don't have a dual relationship. So if you're a photographer, I'm not also going to call you up to take a headshot for me. And you have a minimum of a master's degree to be a psychotherapist. But psychiatrists, they dispense medication, they go to medical school. Counselors you can also call yourself a counselor. You could also call yourself a therapist. I like the word psychotherapist because it kind of echoes back to the beginning of our field, so it sort of takes into account the history of our field and how we've evolved and who we are while being kind of current and modern day.
So you keep mentioning your 50-minute tight frame.
Yeah.
And when I'm working with energy, time for me is just, it's elusive.
Yeah.
It's magical. Sometimes I can be speaking to someone about their energy or working with a healing modality with energy, and I feel like 5 minutes has gone by and it's been an hour and a half.
Totally.
So how can you stay so present with time and provide the energy of just being present? Like, it's just a muscle that you've exercised. I mean, there's got to be more than that to it. It's like, it's mind-boggling to me.
It is. And I think that's the piece, like somebody like you, who the work that you do is so much more vast. And the way you use energy is so multidimensional. So you can go in there and just go. I think for me in the room, there's always one foot on the ground. And that keeps, I'm watching that clock. I'm aware of that. Part of that is boundaries. For therapy and the work that we're doing, it's about structure, routine, safety, dependability, consistency. They know I'm going to start on time. They know I'm going to end on time. And that alone creates this sense of like consistency and safety. They know they can count on that. But it means I can't go. Like we could start to open something up or something can really happen and we have to end. And that's
how
just,
do you put a bookmark in that?
And that's just one of the limitations. And you just learn ways, I'm sure you in your field, you learn like ways to move time a little bit if you know that you're going to be ending. So I'll sense that something's starting to open up, and instead of waiting till 2 minutes before the end of the session, I might start 15, 20, 30 minutes in. Like, this is a lot. We have a lot of work we want to do with this. I know we only have 15 or 20 minutes left. What seems maybe to be the first most important piece we want to do today? So holding space for all the work, but keeping that boundary. And it's frustrating to me, and it can be frustrating to the client because you want to get in there. It's right there, and the energy's happening in the room, and you don't want anybody to ever feel like you're just trying to get them out, because you're not. So it can be frustrating.
How do you describe energy? And do you use that word with your patients?
It depends on the client. So one of the rules, first rules of social work and therapy is meet the client where they are. So I will develop a language with the client that meets them where they are. And I might drop in a few words, and if that interests them or if they move in that direction, then we'll expand that. But otherwise, I just find different uses, different words for the same thing.
So what other words are synonymous with energy in you?
So for me, energy is just that felt sense of what's happening that is beyond the logical and visual.
Like an AKA
feel.
Vibe?
It's a vibe. And we've all had it. How many times have you walked into a room and two people are standing there and you walk in and you're like, what did I just walk into? Like you can feel there is something tense going on, or maybe they were like hooking up or whatever it is. But you can feel that even though there was nothing in your visual contextual field that gave you that information. Mm-hmm. That's energy. And when you're working with clients, for me, in such an intimate way, they're opening up the story of their life, their joys, their sufferings, their hopes, their fears. I can open the door of the waiting room and just sense, how they're feeling or how they're coming in today, or if something's off with them.
But do you ever share that with them?
Sometimes.
Really?
But I also don't want to direct the session. So I will sometimes just tuck that in my back pocket.
So you just play neutral?
Well, I try not to play neutral, but I don't try to direct them. So I'll say, usually I start a session with, so where are you today? And let them come into the room themselves. And sometimes it might take a minute. They might report in first on what they've actually been up to, and then start to talk about what they're feeling or something's going on. But I don't say, open the waiting room door and you seem really upset. What's wrong? That can be intrusive, and it could also make them feel like it's not theirs to share or work with. That it's theirs to share and work with, not mine.
That's a big thing for readers.
Mm-hmm, I bet.
Energy healers or whatnot. When somebody comes up to me and I already have a handful of information, is really we can go as far as rude, inappropriate for me to go, oh yeah, I know, when that's yours. I have to draw the line of that information belongs to you. I can't deliver it to you. I tune out.
Right.
So
yeah.
Interesting to hear you talk about that.
Same. It's the same thing just in a different way or a different setting and different information.
So I was thinking about when I asked you if you stayed neutral for somebody, like facial expressions. Do you also look at space, like the environment, the office? Do you go as far as recognizing color and patterns and feng shui? You're still nodding your head. This is exciting.
Yeah. I have a little of everything.
Yeah.
Just to see what people gravitate to. So my windowsill has crystals, and
you have crystals in your office.
Crystals in my office, and I have a little incense holder and some Native American, things. I have a burning bowl in the waiting room. I have essential oils. I have some food, teas. So I have, the lighting, the colors, the textures, the whole room, the books. Everything for me is an opportunity for clients to decide what direction they want to go. And they're all things that I like to do too, and that I want to look at and see and be around all day. So it's having my energy.
Personal expression of you.
Yeah.
But I would not think about that if I was walking into a therapist office.
There's a huge discussion about that.
Really? That everything I'm looking at is an expression of them. I would think that it would be placed because, here's how my brain goes, that you would want something out of me for that. Like if I touch that purple crystal, then that would mean such and such. If I was attracted to the books, then that meant such and such. Do you glean information on what people gravitate to, or is it sincerely like just trying to give you a space to belong in?
It's more of a portal. So if somebody gravitates towards something, then I'll say, I saw you were interested in that, or I see you looking at that amethyst right there. Do you like amethyst, or do you like crystals, or and then we'll sort of start a conversation about that and see where it goes. That might be another something they can use in their work with themselves. Some clients, because of the office, they've set up a home altar, and they've used the office beginning as a place of learning about crystals or oils or even Buddhism or whatever it is that they might be drawn to.
Is it common now in psychotherapy to have crystals?
A lot do.
Really?
And a lot don't.
Therapy. Last time I checked in, it was a while.
Yeah.
It was a while. I just closed down. It was psychotherapy was the person who wanted me to speak for the 15 minutes and then label me and then tell me at the end, here's your title, here's what was wrong, here's what you can look at, these are the ways that you can do it. And it was just like
a lot of pathologizing.
I was like, I can't come back. I can't breathe in this.
And I think that's the exciting thing about this present time right now. Research is validating every day all this information that energy workers like you and healers, poets, mystics have known for centuries, that this stuff is real and that it works and that it's healing. So the field of psychotherapy is at this really exciting time when they are expanding their container of what they will use as healing. So just that prefrontal cortex, that cognitive piece is still important, but it's expanding so much more now. And so therapists have a lot more range. They have a lot more permission to explore different ways to use crystals, to use yoga, to use meditation as portals to awareness. And I have to say, one of the number one people that started this a few decades ago is this Harvard-trained psychiatrist guy, total brainiac guy who studies trauma. And he really was one of the first people that said, it's about what the body is holding. It's not about the story. And the way to really start to open up trauma in our field, in the field of psychiatry and the field of psychotherapy, is to bring the body into it. And of course, that was just shocking to the field. The body, what about the body? And so from there, it's really legitimized this work.
Okay, well, then that makes great sense that you call it the energy of presence. Because you're getting people to be in the moment, be in their body. You're creating the environment for them. The portals. I love it. I just had this little image that in your room, it's like, here's the portal, there's the portal, this is the portal. We engage in that.
Right.
And then you're also I heard you mention setting boundaries and having consistency and the reliability, showing up on time, being ready on time, ending on time. So there's like repetition that people can rely on. It's really important.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, you just said yoga and meditation and some few other like ping words that when I've met other psychotherapists, they don't casually throw these words out.
Right.
So quite different.
Yes.
And I want to know, do you throw this into your talk therapy as you're in it? I mean, do you say as a referral, here are some, modalities that might work or inclusive?
Absolutely. And that was a conscious decision on my part.
Yeah.
So, as a psychotherapist, there were different parts along my career where I made decisions about my identity and my professional identity, what I believed, and how that was all going to integrate together. And, what I really realized is if I decided not to open these portals up in my practice, that it was because of fear. And so I, in order to practice what I preach, decided that I really believe in these healing modalities, and I believe in the field of psychotherapy, and I'm finding a way to hold space for all of that in the way that I like to practice. And so my website is full of, meditation links, yoga. I have events coming up here at the Love and Light Institute. I refer to your Monday night trauma group that you have here all the time. She's trained by the guy I was just talking about.
Really?
That's her training came from him.
That's small world.
And so, there's a Monday night AA meeting that also has a yoga and meditation component to it. I refer to that all the time, and people love it. They love finding places that really resonate with them. And again, expand that portal of healing.
So you're teaching a class at the Center for Love and Light, December 2nd, and it's on loving kindness meditation.
Yep. And if you're a professional, you can get 2 CEUs.
Yes.
And you can also bring partner, family, friends. It's open to anyone. And we still have lots of registrations open. So it'll be fun. It's going to be candlelight. So it'll be quiet and candlelight. We'll teach you to sit on the cushion. We'll sort of open the body, prepare it for meditation with some gentle stretches. And then we're going to have a nice, long, loving kindness meditation after.
I just want to pause right there and remind you, Lumineers, that you're hearing this from a psychotherapist. Is it busting all of the previous, preconceived ideas that you had on what a psychotherapist is? Because it's still doing it to me. And I have known Alyce now for
a long time.
20-odd years.
Yeah, at least.
Right? Mm-hmm. I met Alyce at my neighbor's house. And kind of became friends and danced around, and she was just always the psychotherapist. And then when she started talking about what she does, it was like, what? Excuse me? Just click, click, click.
You've been a big teacher in all of that, too. Well, you really have. You've been an important part of that. I had a reading with you when this was your studio
with number 4.
many years ago, and you recommended a book, Sacred Contracts by Caroline Mace. And I bought it, but I never read it, like many books that we have in our bookshelves. And it took about almost 20 years for me to circle back to her. And I just got back from Charleston from a 3-day workshop with her. So she was indeed one of my teachers, but just came a lot later.
That is really cool to hear.
Yeah, but your work and my work, I think, have so much overlap, around how we use energy and presence in the process.
When you started adding the yoga, the meditation, the crystals, the expansion, did you have any conflict or kind of grit with other psychotherapists, with other colleagues?
Mm-mm.
Did you? No.
None.
What? We're in the South. I'm so intrigued. What's happening?
I don't know. Maybe
This is
it's
great.
Maybe it's the group that I've just formed over the years. You know, we've all practiced and referred and been together, that we've grown in enough ways together that we value the same general types of work. I also think the field is changing. It really is changing. And it's the validation that they're getting from the scientific community that's just put it over the hump. The work that you and your colleagues and guides have been doing for centuries is really now finding a place in the consultation room. It really is. And those languages are coming together, the fields are coming together, and it's only benefiting those who we're serving.
Yes.
You know, and ourselves, of course, because we get to do our work ourselves.
Which
is such a fun part of the practice, you know.
I love hearing this.
Yeah.
So what are some tips that you would give people who are looking for a therapist or feel that they might need one, but they don't even know the ways to even start a search?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have ways that you can tell them where to go, or what kind of feeling to look for?
Yeah.
I mean, since this is your world.
Yeah. If you just want to go online and start browsing, Psychology Today, I think, is the very best place to go. They have a website by zip code, so you can search all the therapists in whatever zip code you want to look in. And those therapists have a picture and a profile, and then a link to their website. And from that, you can probably start to glean a little bit about them. So that would be something you could just do, you know, yourself. The other thing is the research shows that the efficacy, the healing benefit of a counselor or a therapist are twofold. One is, and the most important, is the relationship. And that's where you start to do your own energy work, trusting your own sense of, is there a connection? Does this person get me? Trust your own intuition. So if you go to somebody's website and you don't get a good feel, that's not your person. If you walk in the room and after that session, it just wasn't right, they didn't get you, that's not your therapist. And so trust that and believe in that. And if you're in therapy and something goes wrong and you have a solid enough relationship, bring it up with the therapist. I encourage my clients all the time. You know, if I say something, or if I'm going down this path and you're really wanting to go down this path, or I say something that's off or hurtful, bring it up and let's talk about it. That's a really important part.
That is super important.
Yeah.
What about parents or children who are looking or need therapy or asking for therapy?
Yeah.
Like for myself, I'm in a new boat where I have a child who is working through some things, growing preteen to teen, you know, all these concepts and ideas are floating. And she is a great self-advocator. And she went to the student counselor and asked, you know, hey, this is what's going on. She was like, great, here's some therapists. And then my daughter came home and went through all the therapists. She read, and she looked at the pictures, and we read the bios, and she made a list. And then she said, I want to at least see 3 of them, so then I can know. Because I've never done therapy before, so then I can know what style I like, or kind of like who I like, or how they're going to approach this.
Absolutely.
And it was just like, first of all, wow.
Totally wow.
And then when we told the first therapist, we saw that she was going to see some others, because the first one was like, okay, let's set up the next one. She was like, well, I have 2 more to see, and then I'm going to make up my mind. And the therapist was just like,
that's the reaction you want.
Fantastic. She was so happy. She goes, you know, I always say we try on more shoes to find out which ones fit us than we do therapist. Mm-hmm. She goes, I think that's great. You just call, you know, reach back out to me and let me know if I'm a fit or not. And
right.
And it was super great. And when we left, my daughter was like, you know, that was really good. I liked that.
Yeah.
So do I just ask the same questions? Like, did you feel good?
Those are great questions. And validating her experience. And that's the therapist interaction. Because if the therapist takes the position of power in the room, I know more about you and what you need than you do, that's that's a closing down of,
That's the thing.
yeah, of trusting that the client knows best. I've had several courses of therapy with people over my career when I have gotten stuck in trying to force a situation, force them to do a certain thing or force a certain way of thinking. And as soon as I release that and return, either just through my energy or through a conversation around, we're just going to listen to you now. I'm just going to listen to you, and we're just going to go that way. It changes everything. So I love that she knows that to do that.
It's amazing. Like, I'm very pleased, because it's a new journey with a kid doing this process. It's like,
and most people, they don't want to go through that footwork, because by the time you decide to go to therapy, it's because something's building up and you're wanting it now, and you don't want to tell your story that many times. But if you can just give yourself a little space and time to do that, the benefit will really outweigh. So she's doing it right on.
Thank you for sharing that. Now I have, before we close up,
I can't believe it's already over.
I still have a few things I want to talk about, because I love this idea of the energy of presence, the energy of being there, not just energetically, mentally, emotionally, but physically, environmentally, just everything. Sound, smell. I heard you mention everything. Yeah. It was pretty cool. You're a wealth of information. You do so much beyond psychotherapy. There's some cool little things you did before, like I was having a hard time starting. We're filming the day after Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays.
We're full of candy.
And so I'm, swollen from actually eating some sugars and stuff like that. And you were like, no, let's just clap our hands. And that's something that Colleen brings up all the time. She's like, yeah. And you said something fantastic. How many per square inch?
Our hands are such powerful tools. So there are 1,500 nerve endings per square inch in our hands. So just by clapping your hands, you can transfer energy. And an easy way to do this, if you're a therapist or anybody that's working with people or for yourself, if you want to ground your energy, palms down to ground. Like, I just need to ground. Feet on the floor, palms down. If you want to elevate your energy or receive, palms up. So and that's called mudra, yoga of the hands, or mudras. This is a mudra. Mm-hmm. So anything that we do with our hands to regulate energy. The other thing is pairing the intention with it is what really deepens the power of it. So you can do this, but you might not realize anything's happened. But when you have the intention, I'm going to ground my energy, paired with putting your palms down, that really enhances the energetic experience. Those are just little portable practices you can do all the time.
Do you talk about this in your sessions?
All the time. Because as a therapist, a lot of therapists are also yoga teachers, and they have a big space and they roll out the mat and all that. I don't have that per se in my office. I have a mat and a cushion, but these are portable practices that therapists can do right in their office, staying in their chair, staying in the therapist frame, but just as a way to talk to clients about if they're feeling overwhelmed, if they're feeling anxious, if their energy is starting to get away from them, just as a way to ground their energy. Yeah. So it's a way that therapists can still talk about energy.
Which I wanted to know, are you overly selective with your words? Do you pay attention to the words and how they fall in the room and how they create a space? Or are you just so into communication that it's more of a dance? Do you understand the question?
I do.
I'm curious.
I probably do a little of both, and it depends on the client. If there's a lot of sensitivity, if there's a lot of trauma, if there's a lot of intensity in the room, my presence needs to be very, very stabilizing, very open, very safe, and very loving. And so I try to regulate the energy in my words around that. So I'm kind of doing that a little bit right now.
Just with her tone of voice too.
I just slow myself down. You know, I really try to think about an open, loving heart space, just creating lots of room. So I'll pair my words with that. But if it's a client, we have a great rapport, and we're both passionately kind of talking about something, then we'll vibe away and we'll talk and jam, and that can be fun too.
In your opinion, do you believe psychotherapy is for everyone, or is it for everyone, and does it fit every circumstance that we?
It's probably for everyone. It does not fit every circumstance. There are times where people need something else. They need more. They might need something medical. They might need something more spiritual. They might need something more energetic. You know, they might need some shamanistic work. They might need a medical workup. You know, they might need a lot of other things. But that can be a place for us to talk about what's going on. You know, where does it hurt? And here's a buffet of all sorts of options. What lands right with you? What do you feel like you want to need to go explore? And sort of let them start to work out a path.
Well, Lumineers, we love having you here. Thank you so much for showing up and lending us your ears. And a big special thank you to you for being in studio with us today.
Thank you.
Huge gratefulness here. And Lumineers, if you love Alyce Wellons and what she has said, please check out her social media links, her website. You can find her at alycewellons.com. You can find her Alyce Wellons Instagram and Facebook, but it's Alyce Wellons LCSW. We'll have all those links written below. December 2nd, again, you're going to be at the Center for Love and Light, the Loving Kindness Meditation. Lumineers, you guys can show up for that. You can find that over at withloveandlight.com, or all your events in 2019. Go to your website and click on the events page, right?
Absolutely. It's all there.
I love how organized you are. Is there any last minute words that you would like to share with our community?
Thank you guys for having me and for having the courage to get up every day and do the work that you do and the contributions to the world that you make. Glad to be a part of it.
Yay. All right, Lumies. It's not woo-woo. It's true. Bye.
With Jamie.